Hey guys, Modelling Weekly here, and welcome to the first tutorial video on this channel since about April this year. It's definitely been a while. The subject of today's quick video is one that a lot of people tend to shy away from when it comes to modelling certain aircraft, as well as ships and even some vehicles. It is of course the process of adding rigging to your scale models. Now, I've been known in the past to take the easy route and buy a set of photo-etched rigging for my models, simplifying the process quite a bit. This, however, isn't really sustainable, as there's loads of cases where either a photo-etched set isn't available, or even if it is, it would be completely out of scale and unrealistic. As a result, I've been working on my rigging application techniques, and I've now got a workflow that I'm happy to share with you guys. This comes in response to a few of you asking for more detail on my rigging technique following my Austro-Antarctic video, so I really hope you find it useful. So let's get straight into the video. Before we do start, I'd just like to say that this is my own personal way of going about rigging, and everyone's different, so if you'd like to add anything in the comments down below, feel free. To begin with, I'll just go over the tools and equipment that you'll need to get started. First and foremost, you'll need some rigging line. Some people like to use nylon fishing cord, others use string. However, I've always used Ushi van der Rossen Rig That Thing, as it shrinks when heat is applied to it. This will come in very handy later on. Feel free to use other products, however do make sure that they also shrink under heat application, as that is the key to this process. I'm personally using the 0.005mm variant, as it looks good on all scales up to 172. For 148, 132 and 124, you'll want to go to the next couple of sizes up. Next, you'll need some quick drying superglue, preferably in the form of a gel, as this makes the application process much easier. Any brand works for this, however, just make sure it's a good quality product that isn't going to fail on you. I'm personally going for Loctite Power Gel, as it's the best that I've found for this purpose. You'll also want a nice sharp pair of tweezers, as well as a fresh hobby blade, which will come in handy if you ever need to trim off any excess. As I mentioned earlier, you'll also need a source of heat in order to shrink the rigging line down once it's in position. For this purpose, a household lighter is completely fine and works very well in my experience. In order to apply the glue, you can really use anything you'd like. However, what you can do is fashion an ordinary toothpick into a perfect superglue applicator. Simply cut off the pointed end of the toothpick with a craft knife, and then reduce its thickness so that you sort of get a flathead screwdriver style shape. Then, using the craft knife again, remove a triangular wedge from the flat end, leaving you with two prongs and a tiny gap between them. This will suspend a small blob of superglue, which can then be cleanly transferred to the model. Last but not least, you'll need your model itself. If it's a biplane, you'll ideally want the upper wing to be removed to begin with, as it's much easier to fix the rigging lines in place without a wing in the way. So that's pretty much everything you need to get started. If you don't know the exact rigging layout of your model, then most modern kits will include some form of rigging guide in the instructions to help you out. Alternatively, a quick Google search will bring up images of the actual aircraft which you can follow, or sometimes even an online rigging diagram. When it comes to applying the actual rigging, most modern kits have small indentations on the surface of the plastic where the rigging should go, so you can use this to guide you along. If your kit doesn't have this, you can either glue straight onto the plastic with no guide, or use a 0.5mm pin vise to create a small indentation on the surface. Right, let's now begin the rigging demonstration. Begin by unspooling a length of rigging line and cutting a length with a hobby knife. At this point, it's okay to pretty much eyeball it, but try to make it a little bit longer than it needs to be, as it'll need a little bit of slack when gluing the loose end to the top wing. You'll see what I mean soon enough. Next, squeeze a small blob of superglue onto a piece of masking tape, and use your chosen superglue applicator to apply a small blob of glue to the model. Don't worry if the blob looks a little bit big, as the superglue will shrink down as it cures. Later on, you can also apply a small amount of matte varnish over the top of the superglue just to blend it into the surface. It's also worth pointing out that the superglue's fast drying ability decreases the longer that it's exposed to air without being used, so you'll want to replenish your blob every couple of minutes or so. Using a pair of sharp tweezers, you can then hold the rigging line in place in the superglue for about 5 seconds, making sure that it's in an upright position when it first goes in. It's okay if it flops to the side after you let it go, but just make sure that that initial contact is upright, as otherwise it might come out from the model at weird angles. Repeat this for all rigging lines that will be hard to reach once the wing goes on, and leave the superglue to fully cure for about 3 to 5 minutes. You can then continue the assembly of the aircraft, in this case by fixing the upper wing in place. However, if you're building a ship or a monoplane, then don't worry about this step. With everything dry, you can move on to fixing the other end of the rigging line into its place, following the same process as before. Depending on how much slack you gave the lines to begin with, you may need to cut them down so that there's only a small amount of slack when both ends are in position. You can sort of see the amount that I mean in the video demonstration. Any trimming can be done with a pair of sharp side cutters or a pair of sewing scissors. This slack allows the superglue to fully cure without any tension on it, massively reducing the chance of it failing. A bunch of slack rigging, however, looks terrible, so the next step involves the lighter. Keeping both the lighter and the model vertical, give the rigging quick bursts of heat starting from a distance of about 15 centimeters, edging closer if the heat needs to be a bit more intense. Don't go closer than around 5 centimeters, and keep the lighter moving at all times. Doing this will massively reduce the chance of the rigging snapping. The rigging lines should then tension up, leaving you with a perfectly rigged model. The great thing about this method is that it causes no damage to the model itself, provided you keep the flame moving and no less than 5 centimeters from the model at all times. If you don't feel comfortable with this at first, feel free to practice on a test model, or with a piece of rigging attached to a used sprue. So that pretty much covers everything I wanted to mention in this quick tutorial. One additional thing that I wanted to say is that some people like to implement turnbuckles into their rigging, which can be purchased from aftermarket companies such as gas patch models. However, this begins to get more complicated, so I thought I'd go with a purely simplistic approach in this beginner's video. With that said, I really hope you found it handy, and that you now have a bit of extra confidence when it comes to this aspect of the hobby. Again, if you've got any questions or anything else you'd like to add, feel free to comment that down below. I'd also like to take this moment to say a massive thanks to all of my amazing channel members here on YouTube. Your support is absolutely invaluable, and I can't thank you all enough. If you'd like to find out more about what being a channel member entails, feel free to visit that link down below for more information. Perks include an exclusive members-only video every month, as well as early access to all other videos, build updates, 3D CAD models, studio photos, and much more. Again, your support means the world, and you all play a massive part in keeping the channel alive. A massive thanks also goes out to everyone for watching and sticking around. It means the world. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care and keep on modelling. Bye.